Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports Podcast. I'm Blair Kirchhoff, and we are talking Chiefs today with the best coverage team in the media. They cover the Chiefs better than defenses are covering Travis Kelce these days. Of course, I'm talking about beat writer Jesse Newell and columnists Sam McDowell and Vahe Gregorian, who continues to adjust his seating to get in better light here.
We got a windows washed last month, and we haven't put the stuff back up on the windows, so I'm trying to minimize the glare by making you guys sick. I guess we'll just stick with what's there.
Yes, maybe you can block it with your arms. That'll work too. So, all right. So I'm going to get dinner last night, and I go into the office today, and all anybody wants to talk about is what's wrong with the Chiefs. What's happening to Travis Kelce? Why can't he get more production? Why does Patrick Mahomes seem a tick off? Why can't the Chiefs score when they get inside the 5? All these problems the Chiefs are having. And then the conversations end with, oh, but it's good that they're 3-0. That works. So I guess it's the best of all worlds, right? And Andy Reid said as much on a Zoom call on Monday that a lot to fix, a lot to adjust. Better to do it while you're winning than when you're losing. So Chiefs are, let's see, after last night, is it 5 3-0 teams in the NFL, or I don't know exactly what that number is, but one of a few for the Chiefs. So, all right, what's going on, Vahe? Why are the Chiefs seemingly struggling in certain areas and ultimately getting it done?
Well, if Andy Reid were with us, he would make the point of referring to how every win is hard in the National Football League, and he would be right. Obviously, we see the things that could be better, and there's plenty of it. But this is not really new for the Chiefs to win close. Of course, we're conscious of this recent streak this season, and even of the extended streak into last season. Average of six points of margin of victory in their last 9 games of all wins. But I was just trying to look up the number and didn't get to it in time. But I seem to recall, I believe that either that first or second Super Bowl last stretch was all wins by a couple, 3 points into the last minutes. I mean, this is the nature of the beast. And as much as we think of the Patrick Mahomes era as being kind of shiny and glossy and 35-point games, that really hasn't been that way for a while. So I think they're still playing a team game, and thankfully for them, the defense has become that. And I think that's been much more of a marker of who this team is the last few years. And let's face it, there is some kind of winning culture there that is kicking in the final moments. I mean, it just seems that as much as that's the Chiefs' advantage, it's also a separate and distinct thing on other teams that don't seem to be able to come through in the clutch against the Chiefs.
Yeah, but the Bills get to beat their opponents by a bunch. How come the Chiefs don't get to do that? Sam, you guys, third straight game comes down to the final minute, right? And for the first time, it's not the final play, unlike the victories over the Ravens and the Bengals, but a big play down the stretch to beat the Falcons. Nick Bolton, of course, with the tackle on 4th and 1. I know you wrote about that. I wanted to get your thoughts on that and actually what his parents said about that. You went into the stands and found Mr. and Mrs. Bolton, which I thought was really cool. But what's your take on this and why the Chiefs seem to turn every game into this massive struggle?
Yeah, I mean, they're a flawed team. I mean, you mentioned the Bills. The Bills have been the best regular season NFL team since 2020. Like, this is not a new thing this year. They've had a top 10 ranked defense and top 10 ranked offense each of the last 4 seasons. Like, the Bills have just been a really good – they've beaten the Chiefs the last 3 times they faced them in the regular season. Like, they have been a better regular season team than the Chiefs since 2020. With the Chiefs specifically, I mean, we've seen the effects of, having – when you've got really high-paid star players, and then you've got to fill in the gaps elsewhere, that you're going to have some flaws. And we are certainly seeing the flaws now offensively of a team that employs a tight end that's going on 36 years old. And I mentioned this before, but like Travis Kelce was already historically good for his age a year ago. Like at some point, we're going to see a drop off from Travis Kelce. We're seeing the effects of that. We're seeing the effects of not having Hollywood Brown. Like this is not the Chiefs' offensive game plan going into this season alone. And we're seeing a quarterback that I think is rushing some things. You know, I mean, he's not been pressured the way he's pretending that he's been pressured. As when I say pretending, I mean his actions on the field. He's very critical of himself after the game. But when you watch the film on the field, like he's rushing a lot of things right now, and specifically in instances in which he does not have to rush things. You know, he's being pressured considerably less than he was a year ago. But throwing the ball, and these things go hand in hand. He's throwing the ball much quicker. And when you watch the film of like when he's throwing the ball quicker, it doesn't always have to be that way. And he always gets in these fundamental slumps. Every season, we're talking about some sort of fundamental flaw. It's atypical for him to do it over the first couple of weeks of the season. I disagree with him that he played poorly against the Ravens. He had one really bad throw. But these last 2 weeks have not been the best Patrick Mahomes, and we've seen stretches like this. It really illuminates when it's over the first few weeks of the season that, hey, what's going on with the quarterback? And that's stuff that he's got to fix, I think, mechanically, but the root cause of that is mentally. He's got to be comfortable with his protection up front.
Talked about his feet after the game, and then Andy Reid clarified a couple of things earlier this week when he the possession that could have iced the game for the Chiefs. Instead, it goes 3 and out. The third down pass. We thought Xavier Worthy had run the wrong route. It turned out I think it was Rashee Rice that was not in the right place. If Andy Reid was right about that, and of course he would. Why wouldn't he be? The interception was the one to Justin Simmons, who's intercepted Mahomes every game they played. When Simmons was with the Broncos, I think it's a total of 6 interceptions. It's really an amazing stat. But that was maybe because Carson Steele didn't pick up a blitz or went to the wrong side. So there are some fundamental problems there. But he is underthrowing some balls. It seems like when he's off, he's been off short.
Yeah, well, let's just go through that first drive, Blair, because you mentioned the interception. Let's go through that first drive. He throws a ball that's the first throw of the game is wildly inaccurate to Rashee Rice. To your point, he underthrows him. He gets everything he has into that. Like he puts his body into that. He just I mean, quarterbacks miss throws. Then throws a bullet to Rashee Rice, which is a really good throw. And he gets all of his body into it. And then you see him rush throws that didn't need to be rushed. He throws a ball to Juju Smith-Schuster. We can step up in the pocket. Instead, he throws on the run. Instead of just taking the space he's got in the pocket, because he also drops too deep on that throw. He then throws another high ball to Juju, very similar reason. Then we see the 3rd and 6 play. Remember, Rashee Rice had to dive and catch it and roll out of bounds where he's wide open. Like, his mechanics are awful on that play. He just turns and torques it sideways when it doesn't square up his body. Look at the wide receiver. And then the interception you mentioned. I mean, Carson Steele misses the block on that, but Mahomes throws that ball off his back foot and just flicks it. And that's when he says, I'm trusting my arm too much, that's what he means. Like, he's not getting his whole body into the throw mechanically correctly because he's got a great arm. I mean, he's got as good as arm as anybody in the league. And so he's trusting that that's going to be enough. And it's not a bad thing that you learn this lesson again when you win a game, that you've got to still be mechanically sound to have the game you want to have.
I'm ready to talk out of both sides of my mouth here, because all these close games I feel like are a little bit different, but I felt more like the Ravens game on this one, where the Chiefs played better than what the score sort of indicated. We can talk about all these problems with the pass game, with Mahomes not being his normal self, his normal accuracy. And yet, the Chiefs had a chance to put this thing away. And also the point that I'm sure Andy Reid will make is talking about finding ways to win football games. Right now, they have a center and they've got a right guard who are just dominating run blocking. And they've got a running back in Carson Steele who was turning 3 or 4 yard gains into 7 or 8 yard gains. So they were very, very efficient running football up there until the very last possession when they really needed it, when they, obviously both teams know that they have to run the football. But I think the short yardage was the issue for the Chiefs. I mean, how much of this are we talking about if the Chiefs convert more than, Sam, you had the stat. What was it like? They were 3 of 9 or something on 3rd and 2 or less.
2 of 7 or 3 of 8. I think it was 2 of 7 maybe.
I mean, so much of football is like, you get 5 yards on first down, you get 4 yards on second down. You're in a great spot to convert third down. Just continue to move the ball down the field. If they get that thing fixed, that is going to be a big part for the Chiefs and being able to turn this thing around. The other thing I want to mention, Sam, and I think maybe this is kind of the big picture issue right now for the Chiefs, is all we heard in training camp was Andy Reid was needling Patrick Mahomes. You got to throw the ball deep. Take a chance. Throw the ball deep. Hold on to the ball. Throw it deep. And a lot of that was Hollywood Brown in there, but some of it was Xavier Worthy too. If you look at the average depth of target from Patrick Mahomes, last year he was second lowest of any quarterback. This year he's a yard below what he was last year. They are not throwing the ball deep. They are not throwing in the immediate. There's so much of this that is just not looking exactly right in the pass game. And they are doing things like differently than even the rest of the NFL. The rest of the NFL is throwing it shorter. They're throwing it even shorter. And so this big offseason mantra and what they were going to do and open up the offense, I still think Xavier Worthy, helps them in the intermediate. Still think he takes the top off. I still think he takes, defensive presence. But every once in a while, you want to catch one of those balls too. And right now, the Chiefs are just not throwing the ball deep like they had planned on. And that is part of the offense not being as explosive as.
Yeah, and that's an Andy Reid decision when you look at what the Chiefs are doing offensively as far as where they're throwing the ball. For example, Patrick Mahomes threw 25 throws within 2.5 seconds on Sunday. That's 57% of his throws that he threw within 2.5 seconds, the highest in the league over the last 2 weeks. Last year, he threw only 41% of his throws within 2.5 seconds. So Andy Reid is calling quick stuff. And again, that can go back to the Chiefs did not have a great offensive line day in week 2. And Blair Vahe, I can't remember which one of you asked Andy Reid about it, but I thought his most interesting answer yesterday on Monday's call, a day after the game, was that he mentioned something about Patrick Mahomes that let me see if I have this quote. He said, the more we secure things up front also helps. He came off a game where he had to get the ball out quickly last week with the pressure that was on him. But I thought the offensive line did a nice job here. He's referring to the Falcons. And I think Pat will see that, and that also helps the situation. What he's saying there is Patrick Mahomes played like he didn't have confidence in his offensive line in Atlanta. And when you go back and watch the game, the offensive line held up. And it became a quarterback that's why I said this is a fundamental adjustment that first has to be a mental adjustment to have the sense of security that your offensive line is going to protect the play.
Just a quick addendum to that, and I wonder if you guys agree or disagree, but when Andy said that, I sort of thought he was actually referring to his own way of looking at it, that Patrick's rhythm was maybe affected by one game into the next, but that Andy's play calls and selection, I think, were affected by that too. Did you feel like that, or did you feel like he really meant exactly what you said, Sam, just specifically on Patrick?
Well, I think when he says, I think Pat will see that, and that also helps the situation that he's referring to Mahomes there needing. And look, I mean, the film shows that. Like I said, the film shows a quarterback that's rushing throws even with clean pockets.
Well, and we can talk all day about, hey, the Chiefs blocked better than we thought they were going to, or better than the Chiefs thought they were going to. But Blair, you mentioned it too. One of the interceptions was because they didn't pick up a blitz that the normal running back probably would have. So some of this confidence issue has to come and be proven over time that this is not going to happen. So it's not like this is Mahomes making this up and out of nowhere. This is still happening. And this is why some of the inexperience right now for the Chiefs, Sam talked about it. I mean, when you pay your stars, you have to fill in with other guys that aren't as expensive and usually are younger. And that's why at left tackle, they've got younger guys there. They're rotating through. And at running back, even though I thought Carson Steele had a great game overall, you banked on him in the preseason and because of his performance. And now he has to go in there and perform. And for one of those plays, he didn't. And that is going to kind of throw the whole operation off kilter just a little bit.
I thought the offensive line had a good game overall. I thought Wanya Morris was fine in his first start this year over Kingsley Suamataia. The middle three had their moments in the game. And I mean, look at how time and again the Chiefs were getting 6, 7, 8 yards on first down with Carson Steele up the gut, and they'll take that every time. Sets them up in good position. Where it failed was inside the 5, and that's troubling. That they can't get the touchdown inside the 5. In fact, the last 3 times, I think this is right. The last 3 times they've been in this situation with a first and goal at the 2 or the 3. One was they had a trick play with the touchdown pass to Wanya Morris in the Bengals game last week, and then twice on Sunday night they failed to get it in. They ran the same jumbo package with Steele taking a direct snap, and it actually lost a couple yards. And then they just can't move the ball inside the three with what we think is the best middle three in the NFL, and that's a problem. And maybe we're not talking about all the Chiefs' issues if they're punching in touchdowns there, extending the lead, maybe getting a 2-score lead instead having to settle for what Sam you wrote last week. It's something that should never happen. A 19-yard Chiefs field goal. That I'm absolutely 100% agreement with that. That should never happen.
Well, I wonder if Andy Reid's just, I'm the guy that always, and Jesse too, I'm always advocating for them to go for it on these 4th down plays, but it's hard to make that argument when you see their success rate now in 3rd and short. And also, how many plays does Andy Reid have left? And they've run an astounding number of plays inside the 5-yard line, to your point, Blair. And you look at, just to back up what you said about the running game success, last week, Carson Steele carries the ball 17 times. Next Gen Stats rates 71% of those as success plays, second highest in the league that the Chiefs had. And success plays are based on if you have 3rd and 20 and get 8 yards, that's not a successful running play. If you have 1st and 10 and get 6 yards, that is a successful play. It's an on schedule. And so their running game was terrific. And then it collapses inside the 5. And I agree with you that it's the confounding part of this is they dominate in the middle, and you ought to be able to run the ball in the middle. Obviously, the defense but if the reason you can't is because defense is putting extra numbers there, then you ought to have some stuff on the outside. The Chiefs have never been a team that likes to throw one-on-one fade passes. We saw them do it a little bit with Jody Fortson when they had him. I think that was part of the appeal to a player like Jared Wiley, and taking him in a middle round was maybe you could have somebody that could get some jump balls. And without that, teams are always going to key in on, we're just going to stop the run at the middle because we think that's what you guys do best. And so far, other than the trick play you mentioned, Blair, we haven't seen the Chiefs have a lot of success with it. Just one more time, I'll mention that Carson Steele is really good at the quarterback sneak, and maybe they should consider it.
Carson Wentz, not Carson Steele. They tried Carson Steele. It didn't work as well.
I'll take Carson Steele on it as well.
I just looked it up, Sam. There's about 600, 700 offensive linemen that qualify for the Pro Football Focus stat. And for the run blocking grade right now, Creed Humphrey is 3rd and Trey Smith is 13th. There came a time last year, and you were all over this late, Sam, which was the Chiefs struggled with short yardage at certain times, and then they just got really good at it because they just said, hey, you two, go block. I'm going to run behind you. And there's a certain part of me right now that thinks the Chiefs needs to go back and be like, hey, Trey, hey, Creed, it's up to you. Going to run inside zone, going to hand it up to the fullback. Now it's Carson Steele. And it's up to you guys to get the 1 yard, and it's on your backs. And they seem to take pride in that last year, and the Chiefs got really good at that last year. Man, I just think it's listen, the tackles have been up and down for run blocking, but that doesn't matter in the middle. And right now, it feels like the Chiefs need some sort of identity there and something simple there. They're trying so many things. They're trying so hard. It's like they need to try easy, and they seem to have the personnel to do it. So maybe that's a change that's going to come like it came last year with Andy Reid, where he just said, I'm going to rely on my offensive linemen. And with a running back like Carson Steele, I don't know that's a bad strategy because he seems to get yards after contact about as good as any running back that I've seen in the NFL, where he gets hit and then falls forward, he gets hit, keeps his legs churning. So it feels like there's a simpler solution to this. If the Chiefs find that simpler solution, their offense is going to look a whole lot better.
On the other side of the ball, when it comes to short yardage, the Chiefs came up pretty big and won the game, clinched the Falcons game with the 4th and 1 stop. Nick Bolton came in unblocked. I'm not sure how he was unaccounted for, but he sure was. And then Leo Chenal finished it off. Great play by Nick Bolton. And maybe Nick Bolton's already a confident guy, doesn't need the big play to be confident. But it was just nice to see a guy who we think has struggled the first couple of weeks come up with a big moment in that game that happened with 58 seconds to go. And so the Falcons ended up with final two drives, both in red zone, came in the red zone and finished in the red zone. They got no points out of it. So some questionable coaching decisions. I might have taken the field goal the first time down for the Falcons, but they didn't do it, and that's how the Chiefs ended up winning. Jesse, you talked to Brian Cook after the game. He was certainly a figure of interest in one of those not fourth down, but goal line stops. Tell us what he said, and gosh, I hope he didn't look on on social media this week after the couple days after the game.
The conspiracy is still in there, Blair. The refs have it out for the Chiefs. So only way they're winning any of these games, except for the last drive where the Falcons get gifted 2 calls. Just like all teams happen, flags happen. Brian Cook talked in the locker room just a little bit about the run play, or the pass plays he helped break up. Said he was trying to cut off some of the inside angles, and the Chiefs left him out on an island. That 1 4th and 5, Spags brought everybody. They brought 7, and the Falcons had 6 to block. So it was an all-out blitz, and him and Trent McDuffie passed that thing off well, and he was able to stop that. We had the details just got posted with Brett Tavo. So a couple of details to point out on this on the last 2 running plays I did want to bring up. The Falcons had 3rd and 1. And if you guys go back to the film, Bolton is going to get, obviously all the headlines for the great play. Drew Tranquil makes probably an even better play on the 3rd and 1. He takes on an offensive lineman who's 6'5", 323 pounds, one of the starters that was still in for the Falcons, and basically just hang cleans him, power cleans him out of the way and makes the tackle. Without getting that on 3rd and 1, you don't get to 4th and 1. And so an unsung hero there. The other thing, I just keep thinking back to this, where when the Chiefs went with Justin Reed a couple years ago, part of it seemed like they wanted to add to the physicality of their defensive back room. That 4th and 1 play, if you look back, Leo Chanel is in the backfield 3 yards. Mike Dana is in the backfield 3 yards. But on the outside as well, you talk about Brian Cook. Brian Cook and Jalen Watson are going against 2 tight ends, and they're pushing them back, and they have a 30-pound weight difference. So we talk about Drew Tranquil. He's down 89 pounds to the offensive lineman that he power cleans late. The Chiefs held up at the line of scrimmage and pushed the line of scrimmage back 3 yards on that 4th and 1. You talked about why Nick Bolton was not blocked. Tyler Allgeier's job was to loop around and block him. He couldn't see him because Leo Chanel was pushed so far back into the backfield. It was hard to see so the chalkboard play didn't work out like the real play. So this Chiefs team, this Chiefs defense deserves a lot of credit for the physicality they showed at the end of the game. That was not always a Chiefs' strength, especially a few years ago, even under Steve Spagnuolo. But what they did to that front line of the Falcons, it should not go overlooked, because it wasn't just Nick Bolton on that play. It was other guys showing their strength and playing above their weight to be able to push them in the backfield. And
we're seeing the Chiefs this year put Leo Chanel a lot on the edge. And I asked Nick Bolton about that after the game, and he said, it's a rule around our locker room. If a tight end is blocking 54, he's going to set the edge for you. You go back and look at the play, it's actually an offensive lineman that Leo Chanel just blows up in the backfield on that play, which, I mean, as you mentioned, Blair, I wrote about, and like Nick Bolton identifies the play beforehand too. I mean, I think you're seeing the effects of also a defense that's played together for 3 years now, that, is comfortable with one another, moving around, because, hey, Leo Chanel is going to get his assignment. I recognize the play. I know he's going to win on the edge here, and therefore I can just, there's a saying that Jesse and I were both told in the locker room after the game: shoot your shot if you see it, especially in these short yardage situations. Take the risk. And part of taking the risk is having the confidence that your teammates are going to be in the right spot too. And so I think we are seeing some effects of, like I said, a defense that's been together for a few years now. Justin Reed told me in the locker room after the game that we're trying to outdo last year. We're not trying to do what we did last year. We're trying to outdo last year. And I mean, no better play example than that one.
Give Steve Spagnuolo credit too, because we were talking about in the press box, Sam, that play, that 4th and 1, you either want a touchdown or you want to stop. And so they went to a goal line defense there. If the Falcons go to play action, that's a touchdown. But who cares? You give Patrick Mahomes a chance to come back and win the game as well. So I thought that was a really, really good play call in that scenario, where you want it either to be points for the other team or you want it to be a stop for your team. And obviously the Chiefs got the best possible outcome on that particular snap.
I'll tell you, Vahe, it's good to see Spags getting his recognition, right? He got a lot of TV time on Sunday night, and you wrote about him recently. He is he really Hall of Fame coach, I think, Steve Spagnuolo.
Well, I mean, it's a excuse me, it's an interesting sort of prospect to ponder because of the way assistant coaches have been looked at in this realm. But he's not done yet, but he's going to have numbers that he already has numbers and accolades that are unprecedented with
And
four rings, 2 different teams as a coordinator. This is all uncharted stuff. And what's interesting to me is, I mean, he seems as imaginative and as alive and engaged as ever. Even now in all these years with the Chiefs, which, by the way, I mean, suddenly this actually is his longest tenure in any one job since he started coaching. He was with the Eagles in a couple different capacities in those first years with Andy, but as far as one continuous job, and it's not like the guy has gotten stale or complacent in the job, and you can see the direct connection from him to the guys on the field, whether it's Bolton or Tranquil or Justin Reed. I mean, there's I think that's a chemistry that sometimes we overlook too. I think those guys are all smart players, but I think back to Sam, all this stuff kind of comes together with a team that largely played together. Virtually not all, but a very high percentage of these guys have been playing together for several years now, and they're all attuned to each other. And I think they have faith that, as they say, in Spags we trust. So it's a pretty harmonious thing.
Even got T-shirts printed up to say as much, right? As we saw after the AFC Championship game last year. How about the Chiefs' defense against teams' top running backs? That's a nice little stat, isn't it? Derrick Henry, Zach Moss, and Bijan Robinson all held way below their averages. Really a tribute to Steve Spagnuolo and this defense, which is playing really good. I think really good. We probably buried the lead, and we talked about offensive woes to begin this, but really hats off to the defense. And they finally got their first interception of the season. I want to say they didn't have a pick in the Super Bowl, like maybe since the Deion Bush pick in the AFC title game was the previous interception for the Chiefs. So it's good to see on pressure from Turk Wharton. You can pick out a bunch of Chiefs who just had a moment or played a very good game Sunday night. Even Felix Anudike-Uzomah got his career first full sack, had a half a sack going in. Chris Jones, of course. What a terrible, opponents were talking about the missed pass interference call on Brian Cook, but I thought Chris Jones got hosed on a roughing the passer call. I think it was in the second quarter. So just a very good game all around for the Chiefs defense.
I would just jump in real quick on one thing about the penalty thing. Jesse already addressed it, but it is a bit of a tiresome thing. And especially when you see how it just plays out every game. It's a different thing. Penalties are penalties. And obviously there's bad calls, but the notion that the Chiefs somehow have the deck stacked for them is just so preposterous. And the Jones penalty almost is the most egregious because first of all, he got hands to the face pretty sharply. So it actually should have been a penalty on Atlanta, but then the penalty happens and it allows Atlanta's touchdown. Not as notable in the final moments of the game with the bad call with Brian Cook's interference, but these things just happen. And I don't even know why I feel the need to add to it, but it is really weird to hear from people thinking that's really that some kind of strange fix is in.
I think Trey McDuffie needs a louder voice because he might have the 2 worst penalty calls against him these last 2 weeks. Like he's playing outside leverage and a receiver runs into him, and then that's pass interference or illegal contact. And I mean, you see other guys in the NFL who are at his stature who go after refs, scream at him, throw their arms, and like his reaction is like, oh, maybe he thinks he did it. And you watch the replay, you're like, oh my goodness, what's going on here? So obviously lots of calls as you talked about, but that's the world today. We're in a social media world where you see one clip, people aren't watching the whole game. So they're seeing that one clip. And obviously that one clip I talked to Brian Cook about it. He said, when you turn your head, you can't turn your head back around. You leave it up to the officials. You try to play his hands. You do the best you can. When the guy jumps into you, it obviously looks worse. And so should have been pass interference? Probably so. But that obviously was just one part of this game and one of many calls that could have gone either way.
LA Chargers up next, 3:25 Sunday, CBS. Chargers, the Chiefs have not only have they not lost at SoFi Stadium, they've won 10 straight road games against the Chargers. So I think it's 5 in San Diego, 1 in Mexico City, and 4 in LA. So they've got that streak going for them. Heading out to the West Coast this weekend. Chargers are banged up. We don't know about Justin Herbert. We're recording this on Tuesday. We'll get the injury report on him later, but he aggravated a high ankle sprain in the loss to the Steelers on Sunday. We don't know about the suspension of Derwin James, the safety, whether he's going to try to appeal that. Joe Alt is hurt and out. Joey Bosa may be out. This is kind of a banged up team, isn't it, Sam?
It's the Chargers. So this
right.
is every year that this team plays that something happens. I mean, look, the Chargers look quite clearly better coached. They look like they want to run the ball more, which is interesting because of what we're talking about, the Chiefs' run defense, which I'd add one stat to that. They've only had one player all year miss more than one tackle on a run defense play. Shamari Connors missed 2. Nobody else has missed more than one tackle this year. And I mentioned Leo Chenal, like he is their highest graded run defender. They've switched things up knowing that this was a weakness that teams might want to exploit this season. The Chargers are that team. Like they want to run the ball up the middle on you. And especially if Justin Herbert's not going to play, which, look, I don't know exactly what injury he's dealing with, but he already pushed through it. He gets injured. I don't think it's super wise if the Chargers put him out there. Even if this is a big game for them, it is. But you've got 13 other games on the back end of it. But yeah, I mean, the Chiefs are catching this team at the right time, but it seems like every year, this is the storyline with the Chargers is the guys that they're missing. And so I don't know whether to me, if I was Jim Harbaugh, it would have been one of the first things I evaluated when I got the Chargers job. It's okay. Why is your team playing at half availability by the end of the season every year?
Yeah, I mean, the discussion, I was watching the CBS pregame show, the discussion was whether they were going to play Herbert last week. He was trying to kind of grind through it, and they were like, well, you got the Chiefs next week. What if he re-injures it? So, tough thing to do, what you're supposed to do in the NFL, but obviously disappointing loss to the Steelers. I would have set up a 3-0 versus 3-0 if the Chargers were on this last week. But I think you kind of see it in the spread. The Chargers, while at home, are a 7.5-point underdog to the Chiefs. This is probably, especially if you're playing at home, that's a huge spread in the NFL. So at least right now, odds makers are expecting this one to not be as close. And this is for the Chiefs. It's a really important game in the division, probably the most important game in the division if you're looking out there and trying to figure out if a team can knock them off out of that top spot in the AFC West. But as you mentioned, but right now the Chargers are not what they normally would be. So this is going to be a tough challenge for them. And we also know this, there's going to be a ton of Chiefs fans out there in LA.
Like there were 49ers fans at the Rams game this past weekend. Okay, great conversation as always. Thanks for listening or watching on our YouTube channel. Producers Randy Mason and Monty Davis make the show happen. Tip of the cap to Jesse Newell, Vahe, Gregorian, and Sam McDowell. Hey, tell us what you think. Leave a comment, a rating, or review. And we will be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.